The opinions shared by our guests today are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of their respective companies. They are here to share with us their experiences, expertise, and opinions acquired during the course of their careers from the companies and industries they have chosen to be part of over the years. Going to our first keynote session for the morning, the session will delve into the EY CFO agenda, which explores the changing dynamics of the business and world and what it means for you as a finance leader today and tomorrow. As a our as a partner at EY Business Consulting, sorry, Chris Mulliken is a seasoned digital finance business transformation professional with over 20 years of experience covering finance, HR, and IT. He leads EY Hong Kong's finance transformation practice in the Greater China region. Please welcome Mr. Chris Mulliken, partner for EY Business Consulting. Chris, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you everyone for your time today. So this has been a really interesting panel discussion this morning, and I think a lot of what the panel has been sharing with you, I hope to echo and maybe sort of bring a little light to what we mean by some of these principles and EY's perspective on it. So I'll start with a few statistics. Can you guys see my screen? Alan, can you guys see my screen? Alan, can you see my screen? Yeah. Okay. So a lot of the key points that were touched on this morning, again, by Gary and the panel, were how technology is influencing the CFO and the CFO agenda, you know, the war for talent and the importance of learning and development of the people. I mean, at EY, obviously, being a service providing organization, our day begins and ends with people going up the elevator and down the elevator in all of our buildings all over the world. So people are absolutely critical. But we also see challenges in the operating model changing. And I believe, as one of the panelists referred to, that the role of the CFO is changing. So, you know, a few critical statistics that we see here. So in terms of technology, 96% see a shift in skills to data process and technology over your traditional financial skills, audit skills, risk-oriented, again, compliance and financial policy. At the same time, 98% of our surveys, of our responses said that the operating model is changing. And actually 73% said they're very much likely to outsource large parts of their finance organization. So this can be more traditional areas like payroll that benefit quite a bit from technology, to the more advanced areas like tax and financial audit, financial accounting, where you need that specialization for statutory reporting or those critical areas in terms of reporting to the street all over the world. And so that is where we see outsourcing headed, is not just, again, those base level activities, but those more critical strategic activities where having presence and having knowledge of individual markets all over the world is paramount. We also see the CFO roles changing and being far more involved in strategy. But at the same time, 84% of CFOs are struggling to balance the traditional responsibilities and really being able to produce financial results accurately with this new strategic role. And at the same time, again, putting pressure on the organization is that the finance function, 47%, does not have the right mix of skills that are needed for those strategic priorities. And again, 52% because of that cannot delegate. So I think absolutely, to reiterate, to me, this begins and ends with talent. It was interesting looking at the survey results where the 50% of people in this group have said technology is the most important thing, which in a lot of ways it is. But at the same time, I think training and teaching your finance professionals on how to map process and what is Lean and Six Sigma, those traditional process improvement skill sets, along with project management skills, and most importantly, being very, very tech savvy. That's your foundation layer to really achieving your digital transformation objectives for finance. So as we start to think about the future, I'm not going to read through each of these bullet points, but what we want to sort of have every CFO in the back of their mind is be thinking about what is not the new reality today, even, or the old reality that many of us still work within, but what is that future and what is that ambition that I have for the finance function? So, I mean, every business out there has a business strategy. And as you heard from the panel, many companies now have digital transformation strategies. But as a CFO, do you have a vision for your finance function? Do you have a digital transformation strategy for your organization? Do you have a clear vision for the future? Increasingly, we see companies investing in exactly that, CFOs investing in that, having a compelling vision for their teams, for the finance function itself. Again, that promotes better decision making as to where you're investing. It really inspires your team to say, I want to be part of something bigger. It helps them understand their own personal learning journeys and how they fit into that broader picture. And then it gives you a clear North Star so that as you travel down this pathway towards digitalization, which again will always be challenging, it will give you that North Star to allow you to make those better decisions along the way. So I can't name client names, but I will say a global sports retailer has a great one-pager for their vision, and it's something the CFO shares, all the time, very, very proactively with their team. And it's all about people, right? It begins and ends. Their strategy begins and ends with people, from creating the right culture to creating the right opportunities for people to giving people the time in the day that they need to actually invest in themselves and learn and grow. We have another client who's a large global technology company, and their strategy begins and ends with purpose. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? Really being thoughtful about those decisions, and at the same time being equally, if not more thoughtful about the things that we're not going to do. Because if the reality is if you try to do everything, everything that's out there, you'll never land on any sort of meaningful, constructive progress. So moving through some of the line items we had from the prior slide around different parts of the business, obviously when we look at organization, first and foremost, we think about finance shared services. That's a trend for the last 25 years. It's actually, in APAC, it's still an ongoing trend. Companies are still migrating to that finance shared services model. Many companies, though, in order to accelerate that journey to catch up, are jumping straight into global business services with multifunctional shared service models with integrated end-to-end process. But other companies still are even trying to jump ahead, and for those mature organizations, then have a number of bolt-on organizations to that GBS model to promote both digitalization, transformation, and ultimately agility to be able to adapt to the market and changing situations. So key, call it bolt-ons for GBS organization, are center of excellences around data analytics, around financial planning, around business partnering. GBS as an organization is increasingly having a seat at the board and at the table for the C-suite. So it's less and less a back office organization and more a business partnering organization that has its own role in leadership and leadership decisions. As we move more into the agile GBS and organization, what we see increasingly are dedicated transformation engines or continuous improvement programs. These are, again, focused teams that help adjust process to changing needs. They also have a very critical role, increasingly critical role, in things like data governance, with formal data governance boards and data governance teams that are focused on making sure that data is integrated in real time, making sure the right interfaces are being built between the systems, making sure the data is clean, having clear standards for what data should be, what it should mean globally, and to enforce those standards and roll them out across all the different facets of your business. And increasingly then, as part of that transformation, the culture that exists within the GBS organization itself is critical. Promoting people to come up with their own ideas around how to improve process or how to better serve the broader business becomes critical for the CFO organization and the back office organization in the GBS. We see lots of continuous improvement programs out there. There's lots of interesting examples and case studies. But I think one of the things that touches on both what we're talking about in terms of talent as well as continuous improvement is rewarding the people who are willing to stand up and take chances on running processes in more advanced ways, and rewarding them by doing rotation programs in and out of the GBS function. So we see this with a few clients that have very mature GBS organizations. They use these rotation programs for the GBS team members out into the business for 6 or 12 months as a way to reward people. And obviously it rewards the GBS organization as well, because that creates that promotes the environment of continuous improvement. It promotes that culture of learning and improvement of the personal development of that individual. And then it also builds better relationships, better understanding of the business from the GBS function, so that it's not just back office mechanical processing, but actually understands the challenges in the day-to-day of how the business operation works, and therefore can better serve their internal customers. As we move then into the next dimension, technology, this is such an interesting space because there's so many different areas to play. And what we're seeing is the 90s ERP tech boom now, that's obviously long and gone, but most of the ERPs that are implemented are 20, 25 years old. And so it is time to replace those older systems. They haven't been upgraded in a number of years, and they're fraught with challenges around how the data is integrated between the ERP and the broader digital ecosystem that you run to manage the day-to-day business. And obviously, in a lot of cases, those systems are not integrated properly with each other, not talking to each other. The data is not shared. The data is not defined in the same way. And so that then creates all sorts of challenges in this in-between layer around reporting, data visualization, and EPM. And so that's a big challenge in the market at the moment. And what really a lot of companies are doing and should be doing is looking to replace the ERP, to upgrade to the latest versions of SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, your vendor of choice, to upgrade to that new layer, and think about your ERP as the very foundational core of your broader tech stack, so that you can build on top of that and have the reporting, the visualization, the EPM, the Blackline solution for automated account reconciliations and closes. Without that core ERP in place, doing and tackling this broader ecosystem of digital transformation becomes very, very challenging. And we see clients in companies in the market who try to, they want the sizzle, not the steak, right? They want that advanced planning system, or they want that advanced account reconciliation system, but when they realize the underlying data is flawed, the underlying process is flawed, the underlying ERP is outdated, it can be very difficult to tackle those areas. And so we do promote, as again, part of having that vision for your finance function, really having that 5 to 10 year technology roadmap, right? Really looking hard at your ERP and say, does it serve me today? But more importantly, will it serve me in 10 years? And would I be better served by investing in that ERP? And then thinking about building and tacking on Blackline and other areas of digitalization after, as you move ahead in that journey. Data is increasingly becoming critical. The trend toward the cloud, that's all there. Blockchain, even, we're seeing increasing use cases in finance that can be intercompany for some of your more larger, complex organizations, or also some of your organizations that are more dependent on subcontracting or purchasing in the market. Blockchain for smart contracting and can add a lot of value and can integrate into this broader ecosystem of tech. Again, at the end of the day, what your ultimate objective is to get back to this pinnacle of predictive modeling, machine learning, AI, as I think Devraj touched on, real-time forecasting, iterating that forecast on a weekly basis, as the market changes. In order to be that agile organization, we as finance professionals have to be able to say our underlying data is extremely mature, is extremely clean, is well integrated with our business operations data, such that we can begin to apply machine learning, and we can apply our driver-based budgeting and other budgeting methodologies in a very quick way, so that as the underlying business drivers change, that we can very rapidly reforecast in real time. On that note, what we actually see is a shift. We no longer think of FP&A as FP&A. What we really now think about it as is value and performance management. And so this is core to this is your traditional FP&A. We need to budget, we need to plan, we need to forecast, but it's also then integrating into your business planning, such that those processes are seamless, The data sets are one and the same, they're integrated. And then as the underlying business data set changes, that will automatically reforecast and change your rolling forecasts. Data insights, smart analytics, all that plays into this. We need to have the visualizations of the data, the right reporting, so that people can in real time understand how that forecast is changing. We need to leverage that information to focus on business partnering and demonstrating the value that data can provide. And we need to very much focus on real-time steering of the business based on the financial data as we're seeing it, putting that in their hands, helping them make better decisions, and then conversely working with them to make sure the underlying business operational data is as clean and as comprehensive as it can possibly be based on your current tech ecosystem. So moving to talent then. From a talent point of view, as I mentioned, talent is one of the most critical things, in my opinion, that we can do. One of the most important things to invest as we invest in technology skills for our finance team that will promote this broader journey. But what we've seen in our most recent surveys is that 56% of leadership and team building, including relationships, are critical to the CEO. The strategy and design planning are critical. Commercial skills are critical. External stakeholders and being able to communicate in a cohesive, story-based way is critical, and ultimately digital skills are critical. So in finance, traditionally, obviously, we've had a very risk-oriented mindset, a very compliance-oriented mindset within the teams. This can't and shouldn't go away. But at the same time, as processes are increasingly digitized, we need to be thinking about how much of those compliance and the reconciliations and the ticking and the tying is going to be automated in the system, and how much of our team's time spent should be focused on value and performance management, data-based insights, and driving that broader analytics agenda. And what that does mean is the skills need to change, but at the same time, the culture of the team will need to change. People will need to be encouraged to take very smart risks. We will need to be hiring people into finance that come with maybe an English undergrad major, but they have their MSA, right? We need to be able to hire people who are data scientists or who were management systems, IT systems, and finance degrees, dual degrees. We need to be looking for those multi-dimensional candidates who can help us bring multiple perspectives into our team. And then we need to promote and encourage them to be able to speak freely, to speak their minds, and to take risks on modifying, improving processes and driving that increased insight. So I would say it's a call to action on all of us as leaders to really promote that and make sure finance is a space where people feel comfortable to take those risks and to focus on improving not just how the finance function operates, but how it is a business partner back to the operations teams. Last slide here, and I'll wrap up. So what does this mean as sort of a longer term journey? There's a lot of words on this page, but I think it boils down to very, very simply is what I'll call the Snowball Principle, which is start small, automate a process, free up some of your people's time, and then instead of doing the traditional thing, okay, we're going to cut some costs, take that and invest it in the next digitalization, right? And get that snowball rolling down the mountain. So being able to then take that time from your team, train them up, encourage them to improve that next process or implement that next RPA bot, that will then give them the confidence and the skills and long-term the capabilities to then continue that journey and build up that next improvement into something slightly bigger. And let that skill set build up gradually and naturally in your team. Invest in training and all those things along the way, but give them the time in the day to really be focused on the business partnering, the insights, understanding what's going on in commercial operations, innovating process and driving process improvement, right? Don't just take this one-off gain as a way to just cut headcount, because it can really be the sort of thing that will inhibit or slow your progress in the long term if you don't have all the right skills, you haven't given people the time in the day to really focus on their own self-development and thinking critically about how to make things better in the operations of the finance function. So with that, Alan, I'll pass it over to you in case there's any questions.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time. For those of you who have questions, please feel free to post them on the Q&A box, and we'll make sure that Chris and Rachel are able to answer those for us. And we will come back to you again shortly after this. Chris, as always, thank you very much. You shared a lot of insights in there. Quite frankly, I would have loved to devote an entire session just on what you've been sharing. But unfortunately, timekeeper says we have to move on. Sorry about that. And again, thank you
Thank
very
you,
much for
Alan.
being part of the show. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank